Hi everyone. What I'm going to be trying to encapsulate in this short video is sort of the gist and meat and potatoes of chapter 16 and motivational interviewing, helping people change. And so the context of this was really about learning and practicing motivational interviewing, and so really deliberately practicing. It talks about it's not enough just to go through a workshop or a training and to be introduced to the skills, but that the real sort of learning and development and integration of the skills comes with practice, and that practice can look like sort of recording sessions with clients, but because it's so applicable across any sort of interpersonal exchange, that these sort of active listening and empathetic listening skills could be used in sort of more benign relationships, things that are outside of our professional work as clinicians or practitioners. Reflection on and processing recordings could happen within a group of peers, could be between yourself and your supervisor, or it could also be something that's sort of you personally sort of process and draw upon for highlighting your strengths and areas for growth. The chapter then also goes on to sort of touch on and reinforce and highlight some of the basic components of the MI model and the spirit of MI. So the skills associated with the spirit of MI are really making sure that the work that we're doing remains person first, sort of human centered, and that we're not getting tied up with deficits or diagnosis or symptoms, but sort of treating the human being. Also approaching those relationships with a beginner's mind, being open, being humble, being willing to learn, recognizing that we're not the expert of someone else's experience, and to be open to learning and receiving feedback in real time in terms of how we're engaging and how we're supporting or guiding a therapeutic relationship. This one shows up a lot. But this is refraining from fixing and writing, that writing reflex, which is instinctual, I think, as a human being, to sort of pull somebody out of a problem, or to sort of see what the solution is and want to hand it to someone. But the goal of MI is really to help them to find that within themselves, rather than us to rush in and try to help or fix. The spirit of MI also encompasses collaboration. It's a partnership. We bring our experience in our profession to the table, but the client brings their experience of their life and their circumstances and their strengths, abilities, and skills. It also encompasses non-judgmental acceptance of the person. So we're not judging the person. We're not we may not agree with their values, with their goals, or may even be triggered by sort of who they are, or sort of what their history is. But we're trying to sort of show up in that relationship in an accepting way, without judgment. Prioritizing health and well-being above all else with the clients that we work with is within the spirit of MI, and affirming their strengths and autonomy, their ability to make choices. So those are some key things that sort of, if you're practicing those things, and you're in the realm of the sort of spirit of MI. And then of course there's engaging, focusing, evoking, and planning, which we've really done a lot of work on so far, but just to sort of quickly touch on some of those elements in each of those four categories. Engaging, making sure that we're mostly asking questions, open-ended ones, using reflective listening statements as a tool to have the client further elaborate. Hopefully we're talking less than half of the time that we're with the client, that we're affirming the positive actions and emotional expressions. So drawing upon the positive and the strength-based qualities of those experiences rather than the deficits. The use of complex affirmations to highlight the client's enduring strengths and resilience. And hopefully as many reflections as questions, but the ultimate goal would be to have twice as many reflections as questions, to really convey that we hear and understand, and to give the client an opportunity to really clarify and to get clear on what they're expressing. And for us to make sure that we are connecting the dots in the way that they're laying them out for us. Using a sustaining reflective listening to get clear on the understanding. So just as I touched on, making sure that we sort of we follow that thread until we get to a point where oh, I gotcha, now I understand what you're saying. And there's agreeance that we've arrived to a mutual understanding. Continuing a paragraph, so sort of starting up a phrase and allowing the client to finish it rather than rephrasing the entirety, sort of picking up some pieces and offering it up and allowing the client to fill in more can be helpful, so that we're not rephrasing the entirety of maybe many things that they've shared. Recognizing when there are signs of discord and being able to de-escalate from that, or potentially, angry sentiments or remarks, and being able to reframe with complex reflective statements, and then finally putting the pieces together. Clients will often share a variety of things that kind of show up, and it's important for us to be able to extract the things that feel like priorities, the things that there's been change talk around, and to sort of assemble those in such a way where there's sort of to be continued, that's rooted in some sort of action or plan or steps that will happen from now until the next session. Focusing is really sort of encompassed by these four pieces. Continuing to work on an alliance that is founded on agreed upon goals and plans. Encouraging choice and autonomy when setting those strategies and goals in place. And developing clarity where there's ambiguity, and that can sometimes take time and right questions, and sometimes silence even. And then of course maintaining neutrality with the use of decisional balance to sort of find sort of what direction feels the most in alignment for the client with where they would like to be. And something that aligns with their values. And then evoking, really focused on eliciting the whys, the client's whys for change, being able to recognize the acronyms of darn cat, when change talk is coming up in session, so that we can sort of pull our focus to those areas. Using directional questions to elicit the change talk. Using a confidence or ability ruler to help highlight where the client's at and to even measure progress. Some of those areas from session to session. Double-sided reflections can be helpful to facilitate change talk. And of course, using the ask, offer, ask format before advising, educating, or providing information. And we want to soften, sustain talk versus strengthening it. So being mindful of making sure that we're sort of setting the stage for softening it and moving away from it rather than sort of endorsing or encouraging it. Recovery from non-MI approaches. So when we sort of color outside the lines and we realize that it's not effective, being able to sort of return to an MI approach is helpful. Of course, using ORs to elicit the change talk is sort of a core fundamental. Open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. We can also plant seeds along the way to encourage change talk by what we choose to reflect. And then we can offer the client sort of a bouquet of change talk phrases and sentiments that can help sort of highlight maybe a movement through ambivalence to some sort of commitment to action potentially, and progressing towards a plan of action. And then finally, planning. And we can do this in session by testing the water with the client's why the need for change, why the desire for change, and how, what the how getting there might look like. We can invoke ideas and strategies to sort of arrive at a plan and a strategy to accomplish those goals. And we can reinforce the client's confidence and strengthen it through affirmations and reflections, helping them to identify past successes, strengths, and skills that they might otherwise overlook or undervalue. And then, of course, MI is a way of being. Once you sort of internalize this process and you start to use it in relationships, in practice and outside of practice, it becomes part of who you are. And if you're someone who is already sort of seen as an empathetic listener, then you already have a very solid foundation to build from. The key is to avoid writing, the writing reflex, and to avoid fixing, especially when we're in a space of discord, client who is guarded or expressing some resistance. And to combine our empathetic listening skills with technical skills of recognizing and inviting and strengthening change talk. And yeah, again, just this practice can be used in most relationships, if not all relationships. And so we have multiple opportunities every day to practice and hone our skills, and potentially opportunities to record and sort of play through some of those experiences in ways where we can see what we're doing well and be able to strengthen areas where we could do better. And that's it.